Who will win Choose Your Legends 9? That's what we're all wondering. We're going to do a quick preview and go over all the candidates, possible outfits. We're going to go over facts about CYL over the past, all of that great stuff. But first, I need to know, here's your chance. Who are you voting for? I need to know in the comments. Here's your chance to tell everyone why they should win Choose Your Legends. But here's our first fact, and this is an important one. The highest riser ever in the history of Choose Your Legends is Tiki, and she made it 14 places up to rank 1. The only other hero to make it from out of the top 10 into that coveted top 2 spot is Ellawood. So keep that in mind. This very much favors the past heroes who have been in the top 10, and that's where we're going to be focusing. First up, we have Diamant, and this has to be one of the biggest front runners that everyone is looking at. This unit got 5th place last year, and we had a very big spread on Engage Love. I think we're going to get a bit more focus this year, and I think Diamant is going to be front and center. The one thing I will say is that he has gotten 2 different versions, his base and an alt. That sometimes can hurt you, but I still think this unit is a fan favorite and has a very good chance of being in that top 2 for the male division. If we're looking at possible outfits for this unit, you could do Morian, and they generally play it pretty safe, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that is just IS. I would love to see him in Alchrist's getup, though. I think that would be fantastic. I'd also like to see him with a bow, and I think that means that things would be a little more creative. They are often very, very boring with these picks, and I would love to see them get a little more out of the box. Now, the next unit we want to talk about, though, is Sigurd, and he was 4th place last year and has been slowly climbing, but has seen a bit of a stall. This could be his year, though, and everyone is anxiously waiting to see if we get a remake of Genealogy. As far as options for him, we could definitely go the Vylon route, and I think that would be okay. For me, though, what I would really like to see is Ethlin. I would love to see another healer in Choose Your Legends. I think this would be a great opportunity, and I think the bond between them is really neat, and it would be great to show that. So that would be my preference over Vylon, is if we got an Ethlin outfit for him. Male Byleth has actually been kind of up and down the past couple years since the release of 3 Houses, and because of that, I wonder how high he's going to rise. He is still a favorite. 3 Houses is so good with characters in general and always makes them do very well in these Choose Your Legends placements. I'll be curious to see where they land, but they were just shy this last year. And keep in mind, if we look at the votes, he was only 1,000 shy of Felix, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. As far as outfits, I don't have 2 options for this one. I just want to see Geralt. I love the relationship between them, and I would really like to see him come out in Geralt's getup. I think that would be fantastic, and that's really my only wish for him. The only other option I could see is Sothis, but they already did that with female Byleth, so this is your chance. Geralt. Looking at the female candidates, Bernadetta blew everyone else out of the water with a whopping almost 20,000 votes. Yunaka had 10,000. That's a ways to go, but again, I think that was so soon after Engage that there were still a lot of scattered thoughts on who favorites were. I think this unit is going to rank very highly again, and honestly, I can't complain. This was the unit with the most characterization out of Engage, and one of my personal favorites. If we're looking at outfits, it's a little harder because we don't know a lot about Yunaka's family in general. We do know that she had a bond with Micaiah, though, and because we found her with Micaiah's ring, I think putting her in that outfit would be fantastic. But my choice, what I would really love to see, is just to show that bond with Micaiah if she was actually in Soth's getup. I think that would be fantastic and really kind of fits with her character, her being an assassin and Soth as well. I think she would really do well with that, and that is my personal wish if she wins Choose Your Legends. But the next up is Ivy, and Ivy has been obviously a favorite of a lot of folks, and I expect her to do well in the votes. She was 4th place last year. Her attire is already really nice looking. They did an excellent job with her character design. She has a couple options. One of them, since they normally do like to go with parents, is Hyacinth. I don't love this. I don't think we saw enough of Hyacinth to really get a sense of him, but we do know she has a very close bond with Hortensia, and I know Oblivion would hate that, but I actually think it would be a lot of fun to see her in Hortensia's outfit. It's very colorful, and it kind of fits with that flair from that family, so I would love to see that. We'll see what we end up getting, though. The next up, though, we have Alear, and Alear is another very popular character. One of the knocks on this character, though, is we've seen so many of her alts in a single year. We have gotten a ton of Alear saturation that might hurt her in the voting, but folks still love her. One of the things I worry about is what they're going to do with her outfit. And they have a couple different choices. One of them is Lumera, but we've also had just so much Lumera saturation that I almost don't want to see another Lumera outfit, because they don't change Lumera herself, her outfit, from alt to alt. I've seen enough of it. Another interesting thing they could do is dress her up like Veil, and I think that would be a fantastic design. It's something they could try out, and I would love to see. But it's time for another Choose Your Legends fact, and the longest hero in the top 10 before they won was Male Robin with 7 seasons. That is a long time. I just wish they would have given him a better Brave unit. Next up, we have the Challengers, and I think these units have a harder path ahead of them than the others, and nothing shows that better than Leaf. Leaf dropped out of the top 20 altogether after the first couple CYLs and has recently been back, climbing up to 6th place. But he's only been here since 2023 if you count the large gap. So I think he's going to have a hard time making it, but I do like to see the groundswell of support from him. If we're looking at possible outfits for him, we could definitely do Finn. I think I like Quan a little better, though. His design in general is a bit more ornate, but I wish they could give him something other than a lance or a sword. I see so many of those. I'd like to see something a little different there. Out of the male candidates, I think Alchrist probably has the highest likelihood of breaking into the top 2, and he does have a very loyal following, and a lot of people identify with his struggle with self-esteem. Now, if we're looking at possible outfits, they could definitely do Diamant, and I would be okay with that. I think that's nice. We talk about the not wanting people to get swords or lances, but this is one that, since he normally has a bow, I like the variety there. But what I really want to see him is in Morian's getup, and I know it's very similar to Diamant's in general, but just that whole desire he has to win Morian's approval, I think that would be a nice little nod to that. Next, we have Male Alear, and Male Alear has 2 issues going into this. The first is this unit is coming from 9th place. But the second is, again, we've had a lot of Alear alts, and I think that female is the more popular of the 2. The other problem is, what exactly would you do with the design of this? Of course, we do have Lumera, but I don't know if I know of another unit that we could model this one after. And whenever you force IS to get creative with these Choose Your Legends alts, they often don't do very well, so I am very worried about him getting a Choose Your Legends placement. But we'll see how things turn out, and maybe he does better than I'm thinking. Looking at the female challengers, we have to talk about Balder. One of the reasons I don't have this unit higher is because I can't tell how much support we have for her. Understand that any of the posts you're seeing on Twitter or Reddit, that's a very small section of the population that's voting. Most of the folks don't really like to talk on those 2 different apps, and we can kind of understand why at times. This unit, though, might have a groundswell that puts her high. The design is very neat, and I like it a lot. One of my complaints with OCs that we don't know much about, though, is what exactly are they going to do with that Brave alt? The thing we've seen before is they make him look just like what they currently have, but a little different, and that would really disappoint me. I will say that in mythology, we have Thor as her sister. I don't know if they've written that way in Fae, but if that's the case, that would make for some neat design that they could pull from, and honestly, she looked pretty good in Thor's getup. If you've watched the channel for any amount of time, you know how much I love Sharena, and she's coming from 7th place from last year, and I would love to see this unit climb higher, but the female candidates right now have some really stiff competition. If you look at Sharena's votes from last year, she got 6,700, and keep in mind, to win, Bernadetta had to get 19,600. That is quite a jump that she would have to make, and a lot of these engaged female characters are very highly liked, so we'll see how things go. I will always hold out hope for Sharena getting higher. This just may not be her year. As far as outfits go, obviously Henrietta is the choice there, and I wouldn't mind that at all. I think that's fantastic. If they wanted to get a little more creative, I would love to see her dressed up like Zacharias or Bruno. She really had a close bond with Zacharias, and we really saw that a lot through the first and second years of this game. I think that would be fantastic. I also think she would look great in that outfit. Next up, we have Azura, and you're probably wondering why she's down here instead of in the Frontrunners when she was 5th place. And a lot of what drives you forward is momentum. And the fact is, Azura was actually in the same place as she was last year, and that was only one placement higher than she was in 2022. So I don't know that she has the momentum necessary, but there are a lot of die-hard Azura fans, and I would personally love to see her get up in the top 2 as well. If we're looking at how they would dress her, I mean, the Corrin outfit would be fantastic on her, and I do think that's a great design. They do have other options, but I'm trying my best to stay away from big spoilers, and I don't think I can allude to them without that, but know that there are some really interesting design decisions that they could make for her that I think would be fantastic. For our next fact, the person with the most votes ever at 75,000 was Edelgard. Now keep in mind this was a different time and they didn't police multiple accounts voting over and over and over again. So, I mean, the votes were just sky high compared to any other time. But this was still a more popular time in Fae. 3 Houses had just came out and the groundswell for all of those units was huge. She also eclipsed Lysithea by more than 30,000 votes. So this unit did very, very well. Next, we have the Dark Horses, and these are units that have much less chance of winning, but with the right support could definitely be there, and I think there are a lot of fun options that they could do. The first up, of course, is Echthenir, and Echthenir has a huge following, and it's actually a pretty fun character in general. I like what they did with him in this last book. I also like better when these units win after we actually get some facts about them, unlike Golveg, who had really nothing to base the design on. This unit has some very real options, and for one, we could have him dressed like Larother. We could then have our first Beast Choose Your Legends winner, which would just be fantastic. But the thing I would really like to see, and he had such a close bond with Hathran, I would love him to see dressed like that with a big horn. I think that would be a lot of fun and an interesting design choice that they could make. As far as Shez got 10th place last year and has a little bit to go in order to win with a mere 4,000 votes. But still, we've seen a lot of support for this unit over the last year, so it's not something that would surprise me, and I do like the design of this Three Hopes character quite a bit. But Three Hopes in general as a game just didn't have as much of a following as some of these other mainline titles. As far as getups you could put him in, honestly, I think the Arvel getup would be really nice and would be fun. There aren't a whole lot of choices outside of that, though. The one I could think of, and I know this is a stretch, but I would like to see him dressed like Byleth, and I think that would be nice. My preference is Arvel though, and I think that would be a much more creative design and something that I would like to see them do. The Black Knight came in last year at 7th place, and this is another thing where this is a unit that didn't see any momentum shift from the year before. He actually had the same placement in 2023 at 7th place, and so I have him ranked a bit lower. But again, this is a unit that a lot of people really love, and I think they have some really interesting design choices they could make. My personal favorite, and just thematically, I would love to see him dressed as Grail. I think that would be a fantastic choice, and I would love to see the decisions they make there. But Sephiron is another unit that would have some really interesting design choices. And again, we could have a staff, and I like a variety in the weapon types and design choices they can make. And that would be another one that would be a lot of fun. Tharja is interesting because if you rewind to 2017, this unit got 3rd place and really looked like she was going to jump into the top 2 the following year. Celica and Veronica had something else to say about that, and it just didn't happen. But there are some interesting things they could do with this unit, and I mean, this unit has been a fan favorite for a very long time. But if we're looking at things they could do, I mean, obviously, if they dress this unit like Robin, that would just fit. In fact, I'm not sure if there are a ton of interesting things to do. This is probably it. Like, they have to do Robin, right? If they wanted to do something else, though, I do think a Crom getup could be very interesting and would open up a few more design choices for them because, well, you know, Crom has a lot of different outfits. Freya is the next unit up, and honestly, this unit has been in the top 20 every year since her release and has a very loyal following. So there is a chance this unit could see higher placement. Last year she got 5th place, and that's interesting, but she's going to need a lot of help to go up against the likes of Yunaka and Ivy, and those two are going to be very, very hard to beat. One of the tough questions is, what do you do with her design for her Brave alt? And one of the options is Freyr, and we all know the love for her brother, and that's interesting. I would love to see Triandra, though. I would love to see her in that getup. The whole story of her rescuing Triandra, I think, is one of the best in all of FEH, and I'm a fan of that. I would love to see them play off of that and possibly get more of that in the Forging Bonds. Last up is Vale, and I think coming from 10th place, she has a bit of a trek to get into the top 2. But we've seen it happen before, and with enough support, I definitely think she could be there. This just was a unit that has been very maligned this year for having very little character in Engage. Whether you feel that way or you absolutely love this character, you're going to really need to hold up those Veil banners in order to get her where she needs to be. The other issue is, what exactly do you do with her character design? And honestly, I'd love to see her dressed like Sombron. I know technically that would be for something like a Fallen version, but I mean, Sombron's design is actually pretty neat. I think that would make for some really interesting art and would make for an even more fascinating Forging Bonds. So I'm looking forward, if this unit does get into the top 2, to figure out what exactly they're going to do there. And we come to our last fact for CYL, and this is the biggest drop in CYL history. And George has such an interesting history with being botted more than maybe any unit in the history of the game. This unit was a no-name and was pulled up all the way from rank 12 into actually getting a GHB. IS knew that this unit was botted and honored it, which is probably why we still see the practice go on today. Once this unit got their GHB, they dropped all the way to rank 462, which is the largest drop in CYL history. Okay, so if you're asking what my predictions are, we talked about it, but I think Engage is going to get a lot more focus. If you looked at total votes, Engage got more votes than any other game by far. Now that we're a bit more removed, I think folks are going to focus in on the main lords and main characters of that. And we're going to see Diamant, Yunaka, and Ivy all make it into the CYL ranks. The last spot there, I do have male Byleth. There is a chance that someone comes up and snags his spot, and I think Sigurd has a very good case for that, depending on how much his voters come out. But overall, my prediction is the Ashen Demon does come out on top, or at least second place. If you're curious about rearmed and attuned units and how I rank them, I've got a video for you right now. I know it's long, but it's bookmarked. You can head right to the spot you want to be. Members, you are amazing. Thank you for all you do. Take care and schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon.